Those of you that have been following me for a while might remember me talking about Camden, New Jersey. Camden, New Jersey also had a horrible crime rate for years and years and years. And it had a mostly white police department. And things just got so bad. And the corruption among the cops was bad. They were doing the usual things, planting weapons and planting drugs on people, and people were getting arrested that didn't even need to be arrested, and it just got completely out of control. Well, one thing this city did, they fired all of the police officers and brought in a whole brand new force, and crime went down to almost nothing. Now, it has inched up since because of the drugs. But we know now nationwide crime has gone down since everybody's been in lockdown. This is the former chief of police, and he is now making the rounds. You're going to start seeing him more only because this is a police chief that has gone through reform. So he's doing a lot of the rounds on TV. He was recently on Face the Nation. And I want y'all to listen to what he has to say because, a lot of times when these cops are no longer part of the force, like this man, he's a former police chief, they speak a lot more freely than they normally would if they're still on the job. And he really said that technically the police really should be working off of the consent of the people. But we see police departments pretty much governing themselves. They pretty much dictate to the public what they will and will not do. And it shouldn't be that way. So this is NPR, June 8th, 2020, former chief of Reform, Camden, New Jersey, force. Police need consent of the people. I'm going to go ahead and play this audio for you.
In cities across the country, big and small, there are a few protest chants uniting the crowds that are demanding an end to police brutality. They include "No Justice, No Peace," "Say His Name, George Floyd," and this one, "Defund the Police," a version of which happened in Camden, New Jersey in 2013. Camden's homicide rate was through the roof, and there were scores of excessive force complaints. So Camden's mayor and city council dissolved the city's police force and created a new one from scratch. Joining us now to talk about what that was like and what happened next is Scott Thompson, who served as chief of police on Camden's new force from 2013 to 2019. Scott Thompson, welcome.
Hi, Mary Louise. Thank you for having me.
Just paint us briefly a picture of what that moment was. What was happening then that caused the mayor and the city council to say, we got to do this. The only way forward is disband the police department, start over.
Well, at the time, at 2012 into early 2013, there was a public safety crisis in the city of Camden. Our murder rate was 18 times the national average. We were seeing crime rates that were exceeding that of third world countries. So there was a bold political initiative to essentially hit the reset button. And in 2013, every single Camden City police officer, including myself, was fired. And a good majority were hired over to the county police force. But we all had to fill out a 50-page application, retake a psychological, retake a physical, and go through an interview process.
And give me an example of since you said you and many of the other police officers were the existing police department that then became the new police department. How different was it? Can you give me an example of something that changed in the way the force interacted with the community?
It really started with being able to build culture as opposed to change culture. And we were able to create an organization wherein the identity of the officer was that of a guardian and not a warrior. I was able to change the entire performance metric system within the organization that did not measure a police officer's performance by the number of arrests that they made, but rather what were the outcomes as opposed to the outputs. When I drove down city streets, I wanted to see little kids riding their bicycles in front of their homes, and I wanted to see people sitting on their front steps. We changed the entire structure of the organization. We changed the entire reward system within the organization, and we put them out there in on street corners and said, we don't want you to lock anybody up. We don't want you to write any tickets. We want you to be out here and talk to the people. Let them get to know you, and you get to know them.
Was there a downside? I mean, you came up through the traditional system of practices. Did you feel like you lost anything by getting rid of a more traditional police force, more traditional practices?
No, as a matter of fact, I experienced a maturation in my time as a police officer and as a police chief. And I was an expert practitioner in failed police policies. And every day we used to come to work and we thought that we could reduce drug dealing and gang activity by locking up drug dealers. And we would put together teams, we would swoop in, we would do heavy enforcement. And essentially all we were really doing was re-victimizing the people that lived within a community and create opportunities for other criminals to come in and backfill behind that which we were removing. We were doing everything from a proactive perspective and doing it completely unilateral from the community in and of itself. We didn't have their permission. We didn't have their consent. So we didn't have legitimacy.
I want to note that homicides in Camden have gone way down since these changes, since 2012. So have excessive force complaints, I understand. Do you attribute that to this new way of policing? And how can you know? I mean, how can you separate it out from other forces that may have been in play already?
So when you have a very low solve rate in your murders, that essentially is an indicator of having very poor levels of communication with your community and very low levels of trust. We went from having a solve rate of 16% in 2012 to 61% in 2014. So by increasing the level of human contact with the people in the community, we were able to glean more information so that we could make the community safer for them and with them. I think we led the state of New Jersey in 2012 with 65 excessive force complaints. Last year, we had 3 excessive force complaints. So that's a 95% reduction. And we have body cameras on all of our police officers.
So, what is your reaction to the calls we're hearing now? Protesters calling on cities to abolish their police forces, to not have a police department at all. These are people arguing that if you start from scratch with a new police force like y'all did in Camden, that still isn't enough because there's still all of the racist systems within which that force is operating. What's your response?
So that's a bit extreme. I don't see a democratic society wherein you could completely eliminate a police force. I do think that there are some serious conversations that can happen with regards to defunding police. There are greater public safety returns on investment with programs other than putting money towards enforcement.
You mean take some funding that's currently going to a police force, aim that into other places so that the police can focus on policing? Is that the argument you're making?
Well, that's exactly the point. I mean, look, I would have traded 10 cops for another Boys and Girls Club. But the system needs to change as far as having police respond to incidents such as mental illness. Police are not equipped. They're not trained. They're not specialized in that. But yet it continues to get delegated to them. So I think if we changed the expectation of police and did not have them intersecting with community as frequently as it is in areas where they don't have expertise, I think that the tension on some of these issues could certainly lower. If you put the money towards having specialists handle these situations, I think cops would actually appreciate that.
So as you survey this moment in our country and watch everything playing out involving questions over police and excessive force, what goes through your mind? Or let me ask it a slightly different way. What words of advice as somebody who's been through trying to make significant changes in your force, what words of advice would you have for other people leading and overseeing police departments in America today?
How I want to see police respond is I don't want to see us circle the wagons. If you can't turn on any channel and see the public response to this and understand that in a democratic society, a police is only effective if it has the consent of the people. And to have the consent of the people, you have to be legitimate. So As a police leader, I say, what is the harm with giving them voice, allowing them to come in and be a part of the process, and all the while, it gives us the ability to have the dialogue and the education in both directions of how difficult and challenging situations can be better resolved.
Scott Thompson, he was chief of police for Camden, New Jersey from 2013 until last year. Scott Thompson, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Louise.
Okay, so you heard directly from a police chief that went through a whole police force getting fired and all brand new cops coming in, because Camden, New Jersey went through that. And not only did the crime drop dramatically, and see, what a lot of people don't understand is the police is causing a lot of those crime rates to stay up. Because one thing about cops in America, they don't know how to de-escalate. I mean, they'll come and turn a situation up, but they don't come to de-escalate. And then oftentimes that makes the situation worse. And they have gotten away with that for a long, long time in this country. That's why it is very difficult to do police reform and keep the same people in place, because some of your more corrupt cops, they don't want to let go. You'll just put reforms in place and they'll go out on the streets and just keep on functioning as they are now and being abusive and going over the top and everything. So I remember when this happened in Camden, it was just so bad. It was like every day there was some drive-by shooting. There was somebody that got killed. It was every day. And they finally, because it was so many police complaints in the city back in 2013, it was just, they literally didn't have hardly any cop that didn't have a boatload of complaints against them. So the city council and the mayor decided to just dissolve the police force that was there. They brought in all brand new officers. Those officers had to go on foot and get to know the community they were working in. And it turned out to be a much better situation, not only for the cops, but for the citizens. It cut down on crime dramatically. And I remember I told y'all this before. Now you can hear it for yourself, from the police chief that was there through the entire thing. So reform can work. Dissolving a police department or dismantling or disband can work. It worked in the situation of Camden, New Jersey. Here's a model example right here in my state. But y'all, please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.